Thank you for being here. Let's get right down to it. First of all, let's make sure that you are in the right place, because this is a very specific kind of webinar for a very specific type of person. If that's not you, then none of this is going to make sense. So let's do that first of all. Does any of this sound familiar? Something takes me over. I lose control. And then later I'm left picking up the pieces, wondering what just happened. It's as if there's this other guy, this entity, like a possession almost, takes me over, and I can see it happening, but I'm not in control of it. And then almost later on, it's like this possession leaves you, and then you're thinking, well, who was that guy? What did I just do? And you're left picking up the pieces, wondering what happened. It's like this entity, like I said, a possession, and it hijacks you with this rage or bursts of creativity, and it comes on its own schedule. It seems to just come out of the blue or out of the darkness, depending on how you look at it. Also, do you feel like this? I feel like I'm meant for greatness, to do something, create something great, but my life currently isn't matching up to that. In relationships, they burn hot and fast and then burn out. And partners may have said things like, you blow hot and cold. It's like this 1 minute and then it's all on, and then the next minute it's off. So you know that feeling. People tell me I'm too emotional and sensitive, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. I just put it all out there, right? I don't guard how I'm feeling at all. And do you know this feeling? My mood changes fast and inexplicably, kind of related to what I was speaking to a second ago. And I can see it happening. I know this fall is going on, this fall into the darkness, but I just can't seem to stop it. And when it's there, I have to just wait for it to kind of blow over. And I've been told that I'm a dark horse, a rebel, a loner, and always swinging between these extremes. And it's this thing about walking a fine line. You feel like you're walking a fine line between creative genius on one hand and falling into darkness on the other. And this tension, sometimes again with this possession that can just sort of take you over, this frustration, this tension, sometimes end up with you just lashing out at everyone, and you don't really mean it. And the other problem with it is this, what I call catastrophizing. It's you imagining things to be worse than they actually are, and painting these high definition futures, which can be terrible, because you're taking things out of proportion. Your brilliant imagination is running riot with it. So this is you. If this is all sounding familiar, let's kind of wrap it up and show you, who are you? You love to create and change things. You don't like the status quo. You want to change it, even if it's fine. And these are all good things, by the way. We'll look at the darker side in just a second, but let's look at the positive. You're spontaneous and instinctual. You do have an artistic gift, and you're full of passion and intensity, which is very attractive to other people, obviously. And you love your friends and family, despite how you can sometimes act around them for reasons just already explained. This darkness, this lashing out, it can come out of nowhere. And you will seek revenge for any wrongdoing, possibly to an obsessive level, or a level that is, destructive to you. And you're also street smart, because you're so instinctual. Let's look at the kind of darker side, the flip side of that. This is also you. You express yourself without regard to the feelings of others. Just like you wear your heart on your sleeve, that's also it's not like a filter. It's just coming out, and that can obviously hurt others. And as I touched on, you have trouble controlling your emotions. You can also invade other people's boundaries, and it's that all in a similar kind of sort of package there, where that means you can just, intrude without thinking, because it's this thing about other people's feelings and your emotions just going out there and acting on them. And like I said, with the catastrophizing, you can take things to these extremes. It's this is all or nothing, all on great, all on bad. And like I said, with the catastrophizing, you can imagine situations to be worse than they are. you see your problems before others, again, because the emotional thing, and you tend to sort of see it that way. So that's you, but you, and this is the big point I want to make here, you are not broken. This is one of the big breakthroughs I'm going to want to impress upon you today. You are not broken. Approximately 1 in 7 males is exactly the same as you. You are just not broken. You're not alone. There are millions and millions more like you across the world. But because of this, the nature of what's going on, and because, yes, you're a rebellious loner, that can often mean that you don't realize that this is, you're not weird, you're not broken. There's millions more like you. And it's a natural state. You're born like it. This, what I'm describing here today, is just one of several aspects about a little known and very badly misunderstood male type that I just happen to specialize in. And I'll explain why in a second. So it's a typology, a unique typology that I have created over the last 2 decades. It's my life's work, and I'll talk about that more in a second. Let's just focus on you for now. So 1 in 7 types, and very misunderstood. Now, when you hear about types and all the rest of it, you think, oh, personality types. You might think Myers-Briggs or Enneagram and all these other things. I am not talking about that. Forget all the mainstream personality systems and Zodiac and all the other things you want to throw at me. If you like them, fine. I'm not going to try and discount them for you, but I've just put them to one side. That's not what I'm talking about. For the main reason is that none of those systems, if you've gone into them and you've looked at them, none of them nail your psychology in the way I'm doing right now. I'm sure if you are this type, then you already see that. So, and I am also, like I just said, this is a natural state. This is how you were born, and 1 in 7 are like this. I'm not talking about a medical or a psychological malfunction. Okay, now I can't go into medical things, but I'm not saying like, oh, you're bipolar or you're autistic and all the other labels that people want, or you've got, all the other things that people want to say. I'm not talking about a malfunction. It's how you're born, and 1 in 7 is are. It's who you are. It's a genetic pattern, and it's there for a reason. Fire. We're talking about mastering the fire, and that's because fire flows through you. And that can be a good thing and a bad thing. Fire can be destructive, but it's also creative. It also lights the way, and it also reforges. It renews. And interestingly, you're all about change, aren't you, as well? So why listen to me? Okay, so hopefully now you can see that that is you, and in a way that is relieving in a way, I think. I hope you'll agree to think, wow, that's something, somewhere, somebody finally gets me. So who is this guy? So this is, as I said, this is my life's work. It's a proprietary, unique, groundbreaking and award-winning system. I put groundbreaking in quotes there because Jack Canfield, the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul and the Success Principles, actually said that.
And I found that fascinating. I looked at, there were 7 codes for women, 7 for men, and I discovered kind of who I was. I really do use the word groundbreaking. I think there's some new insights that you have that have not been had by anyone else before.
And it's an award-winning system because it was an award-winning book and that he was talking about there, and that's really what it was centered on. So my life's work, it's not like just personalities, typology, psychology. It's all about who really cares, and apart from helping you with situations like the one we're talking about, then it's also really, what does it come down to next? Right after that, it's inevitable to answer the most important, biggest question any human can ask themselves: who am I? And why am I here? That's really what it's all about. And when you understand those things, when you can answer those questions for all different types, then you can also deal with the mastering the fire and the individual situations like this. So I'm a CPD certified psychology researcher. I was also awarded Coach of Excellence award-winning, best-selling author of multiple books on this subject, which is really what it's about. What it gets into is evolutionary and depth psychology. And where we're going to touch on just in a second is because it's genetic and ancient. And that's where the evolutionary and depth psychology comes in. It's deep, deep, deep in your psyche, in your genes from long ago. And most of all, why you should listen to me, as I said, there's 1 in 7 males, and there's 7 females, 7 males. I am this type. So I have a special fondness of all the types for your one. You know, you're my brother. And I paid the price dearly. So if I can save you in any way from learning all this the hard way, and the younger you are, the better, then wonderful. I'm here to save you from that. And it's a great honor to do that. By the way, I'm also a former airline captain. It's got no relevance to this. Who cares? But it does matter in a way. Because one thing I would like to save you from professionally is, when you know who you are, is going down that wrong path. The path that society says you have to make because it's blah, 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 right? I became an airline captain. That was my former life. I was an airline captain because that's a successful job. That's what you should do. That will impress people. The worst possible job for people like us. It's rigid and you've got to follow the rules. There's no room for all this stuff I'm talking about, like emotions and, breaking the rules. No, opposite. You follow the rules or people die. So needless to say, I didn't stay in that job for long. So I would save you that wrong path and to help you follow the true path. So what's going on, right? In a nutshell, you're in touch with your emotions, but you're not in control of them. I'm saying you're, but really I should be saying, we. But I'll keep to you. So you're in touch with your emotions, but you're not in control of them. Passion and fury, the fire behind those things, they're two sides of the same coin, you see. So, and if you're honest, and if we're honest, you see that fury and volatility as power, because it kind of keeps people on edge and keeps them guessing, but it's not really helping. It's like there's this monster, this possession, this taking over, this hijacking that's going on. It's like there's this monster in the depths of your psyche. And you see it needs feeding. If it's not fed, it will consume you. The fire will burn you up. Okay, and that's really the key to all this. The real issue, it's not the labels that society wants to say, and all these catchphrases. There's phrase of the month. 1 minute it's this, that. It's not anger issues or self-destruct issues. All right, it just comes across that way, of course. Oh, you need to go to anger management or blah blah. It's not that, right? It's not a fault, like I'm saying. It's a typology that needs mastering. Self-help, self-improvement, personal development, personal growth, all the other things you want to call it, it's generic. It is not type specific. So some of the things work for some people and some of it works for you. But at the end of the day, a bit like those personality systems, nothing's truly nailing it because it's all generic. What I do is I make personal development, self-help, I make it type specific, and that's what we're drilling into right now. So again, you are not broken, and all the other labels that society wants to give our type, okay, they don't have a clue what they're talking about. They literally don't know. Your type, our type, is simply wired differently for a different time. So think about that for a second. Think about this for a second. Humans have existed for about 2.5 million years. For over 99% of that time, we were ancient people. It's only relatively recently, the last few thousand years, call it 10,000 years if you want, of civilization. And in terms of what we call the modern world, you're talking literally since the Industrial Revolution, is probably a good marker. You're talking about 200 or 300 years. 200 or 300 years, absolutely nothing. So think about that and what it means. I'm speaking about that your condition is genetic. Our condition, this thing is genetic. So all this time we've been acting a certain way. These types have existed for millions and millions of years, a certain way, to have a certain purpose. And then suddenly we're thrown into this modern industrial age where it's almost like an ancient person, genetically speaking, an ancient man has woken up in this modern world. And 1 minute he's a hunter-gatherer, and now he's here. So, and that works for some types, but not others. Out of all the 14 types I've just explained, some of them just happen to fit into this. These ancient types just happen to fit nicely into this modern world. Ours does not. We're wired differently for a different time. We're temporarily just displaced, if you like. And what does this modern society that we've suddenly woke up in, what does that say men should be? It says men have to not have emotions, right? We're not supposed to, have all these emotions. And we can have them, I guess, but you're not supposed to display them like our type does, your type does. And that only makes these angry outbursts even worse, because you're holding it in, and then they build up, and then you just blow our top. Usually, because society says we can't do this, right? It's usually in the worst place possible to be doing this, at home, with the people we love. And as you know, there's no controlling that monster once it takes hold. So it can be, highly, highly destructive. So what ancient society says is something completely different. If you were to go back for the majority of our type's existence, it would be an entirely different thing. You'd be the shaman. And these emotional outbursts would be seen as channeling emotions from the gods, which I argue is exactly what's going on here. The instinctual, the creativity, all these things, these emotional swings would have been revered. You would have been the medicine man. Not anymore, not in modern society. So, and these ancient genetic patterns then are still with us. I actually coined the term in one of my books of genetic inertia, and that's what's going on here. Our type, and probably half the types actually, are suffering from genetic inertia. So the mainstream, of course, obviously doesn't know your type, right? Why doesn't it know about it? Well, I'm the only person who's pushing this out there. I'm working on it. And the more people who, get over this ignorance about these real types that exist and scrap all the silly personality systems and labels like anger management or taking pills and all the stupid things see, science wants to put our type into a box, right? It needs to package everything into a nice little box and give it a pill, right? Our type doesn't do that. None of the types do, actually, because you're trying to deal with everything like it's some kind of neurosis or flaw, when it's just these types that I'm explaining. And so because of this, and with a lot of the types, because society says one thing, your genes, your ancient genes are saying another, you split off, you become two selves. Right? There's this false self that has to fit in with society, and then there's this true self that never goes away. It's inside you, it's ancient, it's genetic. And this split eventually becomes too much, and that's what we call I say anyway, that's the midlife crisis. You're literally stretched and disconnected, and you must come back to this true self. So hopefully this is all, the light is going on and you're seeing, you finally get it. Someone finally gets you. So, but the price of ignorance, the price of staying ignorant about this, and let's stay with this, is massive. Let's look at personal first of all. Partners leaving you, mentally, if not physically. After a while, displaying your emotions, the good and the bad, it erodes a person's how safe they feel, how loved they feel. And you and I both know you don't mean it at the time. They don't. And the reason they don't is because, like the rest of society, they don't get you. They don't know what I'm explaining. And at the end of the day, it's hard to connect. That person, they're saying this thing to me, it's hurtful. And so even if they don't leave physically, it kind of in the worst thing in a way is that they leave you mentally. They just kind of go cold and shut you out of their heart, and you're left out in the cold. And you and I both know you really didn't mean it. Other types don't understand what you and I both know is that it really isn't us doing it. Having that rage, saying those things, it's not really us. But try telling that, try explaining that to someone. It sounds just like a lame excuse, but you know that you're possessed, the monster's just taking control, and you can see it going on, but it's like you're a spectator, right? This other guy's in control, and then he leaves you, and you're like, what just happened? Try explaining that to someone. And the other thing, of course, is that you just, because there are 7 types, 7 male, 7 female, 7, so it's finding that other type who can get you and see that, and also see that level of intensity. Just like I'm explaining your type, I also explain this to all the other 13 types, and they have their own thing as well. So there's a natural compatibility or not compatibility that goes on at this deep psychological level here under the surface that we don't really see often until it's too late, and you're married and kids with this person. So there is a female counterpart to your type. I won't go into that here, but there are obvious pairings, and there are obviously ones that shouldn't be together, and we don't always see these things until it's too late. So there's a solution to that as well. And of course, the other thing is, like I said, the at home is usually where we feel safest to release these emotions, because the world says we can't. And then we love our kids, but sometimes they're just around when the monster shows up and they don't feel stable. We get these societal labels, bipolar, autistic, whatever else you want to call it. And then the darker side of that is, as you and I both know, that we can sink into depression. We can have a self-destructive cycle because of all of this. And the withdrawal, madness, sinking into just think Howard Hughes. This type exists. I see it all the time. Anyone from Howard Hughes to Elon Musk, if you look at what's going on with them, there are differences on the surface, but what's underneath is the same thing. And look how great they became. But again, they had to master the fire. So professional then. What's the price of ignorance professionally? Not seeing and trusting in your true purpose and identity. Like I said, I was an airline captain in a previous life. If you don't see who you truly are and trust in this gift you've been given and your duty to give it to the world, this is a wasted life. Being rejected or failing by being in the wrong tribe, right? You like I say, these types tend to divide up into groups that are very compatible with this, others not so much. If you're falling into the more compatible with society, wrong tribe, if you like, this can be frustrating, and you find yourself competing in a race you really shouldn't be trying to win. The emotional outbursts in the professional place, obviously, we're now looking at the height of society's rules about what a man should be like. That's obviously seen as abrasive, even if this, you may have had this, and I've certainly had this, is this genius inspiration idea will come to you, and it is genius and it's brilliant because of how it's delivered in such a forceful way, and we have to navigate the niceties of being in a team and so on. But your idea is absolutely the best, and committee is really just getting in the way. But that's in a corporate situation, especially, that's seen as abrasive, right? And most of all, of course, speaking your mind in a political environment, and it's not going to work, is it? And this intensity will build up in you as you're trying to get your idea across, and you're repeating it, and then that intensity spikes to a point, and then obviously the energy in the room completely shifts. So the price of ignorance professionally and personally is obviously massive, not just emotionally, psychologically, but financially. Divorce is expensive. Job loss is expensive. And by the same token, though, being in the right relationship, the right job, with the right types, massive. So the big breakthrough is this then. Something is driving you. And that something, what's driving your dynamic, is what the phrase I've coined, which is called a dominant driver. The dominant driver is in each of the types, and it's causing a specific dynamic and behavior pattern in each of them. Think of it like a tree. The dominant driver in you is like the trunk of a tree, and there's all these branches of behavior stemming from the trunk. All of these branches of behavior, they may look different, different shapes, different lengths, sizes, but they'll all stem back to the trunk of the tree, which is one simple dominant driver. And so this, what seems like a curse, and it is if it's not controlled, hides a powerful blessing. And this instinct you have about being destined to do something great, to create something great, and it's not in all types, by the way. I'm not just saying this across the board. You know, our type has this feeling that we're here to do something great, to bring some kind of great change to the world. But then the reality of life doesn't match that. We're stuck in some corporate cubicle, right? Inside, we know this about ourselves, but society has said you have to do X. So then that brings this shame and defiance within us, this rebelliousness, and this inexplicable hidden shame about, well, I know I'm here to do something and it's not this. And so what happens? The emotions want to come out. The monster's not fed, and he's not going to come out at work, he's going to come out at home. So what if you had the best of both worlds then? The trick for this type, your type, our type, is not to extinguish the fire. And it's not to let the fire rage out of control, certainly, as I've explained. And it's certainly not this thing that other people always want to do, pouring gasoline on the fire when you're in this, when the monster's taken over and someone else starts saying, calm down or blah, blah, and they just get into the fight with you. That's pouring gasoline on the fire. And that's usually to do with other people. So the trick is to master the fire, right? You've got the battle going on with you is muse versus monster, right? The monster's not going away any more than the muse is going away, but we have to work with these two people, and this is frankly the line you're walking, that we're walking, is muse and monster. Muse is obviously where we want to be. Monster is not. But as long as the muse is in control, as long as, not in control, but more balanced, right? She's keeping the monster in check by her existence. That's also mastering the fire. So the price of no resolution, the price of not acting, is immeasurable, as I've already touched on. Divorce is only one example. Hugely expensive. And this, now I mentioned at the start the sort of things I know your type says, and let's say what they're feeling if they're not acting on this. It's like, my emotions are my power, but they're also ruining my life. This is the cost of not mastering the fire. I want to be misunderstood, but nobody gets me, right? I crave intensity, but I can't sustain it. I feel chosen, but I live like I'm broken. So I want deep romantic connection, but I push people away or they distance themselves, right? So get peace of mind in two ways, actually. True peace of mind, but also I want to introduce you now to a type-specific video course that I've created for our type, your type, and it's CPD certified and accredited. It's created, obviously, especially for your type by someone who is your type. Remember what I said at the start, how personal development is all generic, called cookie cutter, right? So this will be the first time, I'm sure, you've experienced something that's actually specifically for your type. And hopefully you can see now that I know exactly what is going on here and how to, work with it. So it's not self-improvement, actually. It's not that just this person, self-improvement is, generic, but we're not talking really about self-improvement. It's self-discovery, right? That there's nothing to improve. It's genetic, it's in you. We're just going to figure it out and work through it. And it's not therapy, right? Or any of the nonsense so-called experts, right, who have fumbled around with regarding your type and all the labels. They don't even know your type exists. So no wonder nobody's going to come up with a solution. Oh, we've got to go to anger management issues, or you've got to work through, it's not about that. This is who you are. This is how you're meant to be. We just have to make it work the right way. We're not fixing you, right? Because you don't fix what isn't broken. I already said, you're not broken. This is who you are. So become the fire. It's taught by me personally, following just simple video training, 1, 2, 3 steps. Okay, nothing, too heavy. You're gonna see this in real time. You're gonna get a definitive answer to the ultimate question: who am I and why am I here? I've only sort of touched the surface here of your psychological profile. So how to stop losing control without losing who you are and why you're here, right? And that's what society and science and medicine wants to do with us, right? They want to, extinguish the fire, right? They want to basically sterilize you. No, that's not how to do it. We stop losing control without losing who you are and why you're here. Your fire is the power, but it must be mastered. So you'll also get a deep psychological profile of your type, and awareness is half the battle. So your dominant driver, as I've touched on, I'll explain that and what's driving all this under the surface and why. I'll also explain the duality dynamic. And this is quite important because you see, when I touched on about how society and your type, there's a duality dynamic, the true self and the false self. We'll get into that and see your true purpose in life. What should you be doing with your life? Harnessing and channeling these emotional waves that come and go, the muse and the monster, in both professional and personal life. And all of this is going to give you the confidence, right? Knowing that you are this type and you were born this way, and you were born this way for a reason, just for the same purpose that all the other types has. It just so happens that modern society has built this new world, but that confidence you have to live life your way and ensuring that you work with the blessing, not the curse. So some common delaying tactics I will share with you at this point. Well, I already know about this about myself, right? But knowing hasn't changed anything, right? Knowing what I've just explained right now, for example, that's not enough, right? Of course, you already know the things I'm explaining. That's why it resonated with you. But that isn't enough. We have to go deeper into that and work for real, lasting systems that are going to keep this all in check, right? And turn what's possibly perceived as a weakness, if not by you, then by society, into power. I don't want to lose my intensity. Good. This is the only system built to preserve it. I'll figure it out myself. Well, why is that going to happen now? Right? It helps to work with someone, but if you've been to therapy or anything else like that, certainly not with someone who doesn't get you and get your type. So I can understand where that comes from, because therapy books, it's all generic, and they're trying to put you into labels and say there's something wrong with you. There isn't. So that is not what's going to happen now. You see, you don't need more time. What you need is control of the flame so it stops burning your life. Now, if you're still here, well done, because holding up the mirror, and again, I've only held up a little bit of it, so that can scare some people away, right? And that's because the ego has built up this identity since you were born, this false self, right? Like I explained. And it also thinks we're perfect, right? So it doesn't like having a little bit of darkness shown up there. So if you're still here, well done. It means you've got emotional maturity to take it further. So let's master the fire together. The price of acting is low in comparison to the cost of this video system. Click below to get going. There's a 90-day unconditional money-back guarantee if you disagree. And thank you for being here. It's a real pleasure to be sharing, this with, like I say, a fellow type. I have a particular fondness for yours, so thanks a lot for being here. And let's change this ignorance out there of the world about our type. Stand proud. Walk confidently into your future. I'm here for you.